The basement of Building 1 at Pearl Harbor smells terrible like sweat, cigarette smoke, and worried people. It's April 18, 1942, and Commander Joseph Rofert walks back and forth between rows of tight desks. We're tired. Navy code breakers lean over papers covered in groups of 5-digit numbers. Every man in this room knows they're losing the war. The Japanese Navy code, called JN25, sits in front of them like a wall they can't climb over. For 18 months, America's best math experts have tried to break this code, and for 18 months, they've failed. The numbers seem to laugh at them. 35,000 possible code groups. Each one stands for a word, a phrase, a ship name, or a place. Even if you figure out the code groups, they're then hidden by extra number tables that change every few weeks. It's a code wrapped inside another code, and it's getting American sailors killed. In the 4 months since Pearl Harbor, Japanese forces have rolled across the Pacific like a steamroller. Wake Island has fallen. Guam has fallen. The Philippines are about to fall. American submarines search blindly through empty ocean, while Japanese carriers attack with perfect aim. The kill numbers are awful. For every Japanese ship sunk, America loses 3. Admiral Nimitz needs to know where the enemy fleet will attack next, but the intelligence officers can only shrug their shoulders and point to huge areas of blue on the map. What Rofert doesn't know, what nobody in that basement knows on this hot Hawaiian morning, is that the breakthrough they desperately need will come from the most surprising person you can imagine. Not from a Yale math expert or a Naval Academy graduate. Not from one of the Japanese language experts brought in from California colleges. The answer will come from a kid who shouldn't even be in the building. Yeah, 17-year-old who lied his way into the Navy, with a fake birth certificate and a voice that keeps cracking at the worst times. His name is Andrew Gleason, and in 6 weeks, his non-stop work on what everyone else ignores as useless information will unlock JN25. His method will show where the Japanese fleet is, make possible America's greatest Navy victory, and save thousands of American lives. But first, he has to convince a room full of officers that a teenager with no training in code breaking has spotted something that the experts have been missing for over a year. The clock is ticking. The Japanese are planning something big, and nobody's listening to the kid. To understand why JN25 seemed impossible to break, you have to understand how clever it was. The Japanese Navy started using this code system on June 1, 1939. It was specifically designed so Western code breakers couldn't crack it. Unlike simpler codes that swap letters for letters, JN25 works in 2 tough stages. First, Japanese messages are turned into code using a huge code book with 33,000 5-digit code groups. The word battleship might become 15,347. Tomorrow might be 90,271. Location names, ship names, battle orders all changed into meaningless numbers. Even if you catch a message, you're looking at strings like 15347289, 144213987623 that mean absolutely nothing without the code book. But the Japanese didn't stop there. They knew that if Americans captured one of their code books, which happened in December 1940, when the British grabbed German papers from a captured ship, the whole system would collapse. So they added a second layer extra number encryption, before sending operators add random 5-digit numbers from separate number tables to each code group. Now 15,347 becomes 48,792, or 91,384, or any of billions of possible combinations. And those extra number tables changed every few weeks, sometimes every few days. The numbers are crushing, even with captured equipment in 6 months of messages. Agnes Driscoll, the Navy's legendary Madame X, who had broken earlier Japanese codes, made almost no progress. By early 1942, OP20G could read maybe 1% of caught JN25 messages, and most of that was old news about past operations. The messages that mattered, current fleet movements, upcoming attacks, stayed locked. The experts had tried everything. They'd built charts showing how often numbers appeared, tried math attacks, looked for repeated patterns in thousands of messages. Math experts from Princeton and Yale worked 16-hour shifts. Nothing worked. The extra numbered tables scrambled everything. It was like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle, where the pieces kept changing shape. Admiral Ernest King, Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Fleet, was losing patience. "Gentlemen," he told Navy intelligence officers in March 1942, "the Japanese are running circles around us. They know where our ships are. We don't know where theirs are. This cannot continue." But nobody had answers. The Office of Naval Intelligence guessed it would take another 2 years to make real progress on JN-25, assuming they could hire 50 more code breakers and double their computing resources. 2 years. By then, the war might be lost. Japanese planners were already planning their next major attack, a strike that would either knock America out of the Pacific or trap the U.S. Navy. Those plans were being sent daily in JN-25 messages. The messages flowed through the airwaves, caught by listening stations from Hawaii to Australia. Boxes of caught messages piled up in Building 1 at Pearl Harbor. And they might as well have been written in an ancient, dead language. The danger went beyond military defeat. Every day the code stayed unbroken. American submarines hunted blindly. Transport ships sailed without knowing where Japanese carriers were. Commanders made decisions based on guessing. Men died because America was fighting deaf and blind. Captain Lawrence Safford, the father of Navy code breaking, told coworkers that breaking JN-25 might be impossible, according to math. The problem was simply too big. "We're looking for patterns in pure randomness," he said. "The extra numbers make sure we'll never see the same encryption twice. Even if we had forever and unlimited computing power, there's no promise we'd break it." Into this atmosphere of defeat and exhaustion stumbled a kid from Fresno, California, who wasn't supposed to be there, who had no business wearing that uniform, and who was about to prove all the experts completely wrong. Andrew Mate Gleason was born November 4th, 1921, in Fresno, California, to a plant scientist father and a Swiss-American mother. He should have been starting college. Instead, on December 8, 1941, one day after Pearl Harbor, he stood in front of a Navy recruiting officer with a fake birth certificate, claiming he was 19 years old. He was 17. His voice hadn't fully deepened. He barely needed to shave. "You're kind of skinny, kid," the recruiter said, looking him over. "You sure you want this?" Andrew wanted it desperately, not just from love of country, though that burned inside him. He wanted it because he was bored. Crushingly, horribly bored. He'd graduated Roosevelt High School in Yonkers a year early, spent a restless year doing odd jobs, and discovered he had a strange talent that nobody seemed to care about. He could see patterns in mess. Give him a page of numbers, a broken machine, a scattered puzzle, and his mind would automatically start organizing it, finding the hidden structure. His father thought he should go to college. His mother wanted him to wait until he was older. But Andrew had watched newsreels of burning ships at Pearl Harbor, and something in him snapped into focus. This was real. This mattered. This was a puzzle worth solving. The Navy, desperate for people, didn't look too closely at his birth certificate. By January 1942, Seaman Apprentice Gleason was assigned to OD, the Navy's code-breaking division, not because of any special skills, but because he'd mentioned on his sign-up form that he liked math and puzzles. That was enough. They needed everyone they could get. He arrived at the Nebraska Avenue complex in Washington, D.C. on February 3, 1942, a baby-faced kid in a uniform that didn't fit, walking into a building full of Naval Academy graduates and Ivy League math experts. Commander Howard Engstrom took one look at him and sighed. They're sending us children now. I'm 19, sir. Andrew lied automatically. Sure you are. Can you type? Yes, sir. Good. You'll work sorting messages 10-hour shifts. Don't touch anything important. Don't bother the real code breakers. Just sort the caught messages by how often they appear and by date. Think you can handle that without messing it up? Andrew nodded. It wasn't what he'd imagined. He'd pictured himself heroically breaking codes like in adventure comics. But it was a start. For 2 months, he sorted messages, thousands of them, 5-digit groups, endless and meaningless. He wasn't allowed to work on actual code breaking. He didn't have the credentials, the training, or the rank. He just sorted and filed and tried not to be noticed. But Andrew Gleason had a problem. He couldn't not notice patterns. It was like telling him not to breathe. As he sorted those messages day after day, his mind kept cataloging weird things, little things that didn't quite fit. And late at night, alone in his barracks, he started writing them down in a notebook he wasn't supposed to have. He was about to stumble onto something that would change everything, and when he tried to report it, they'd tell him to shut up and get back to filing. April 1942. Andrew Gleason has been sorting messages for 10 weeks, when he notices something impossible. It's 2 a.m., and he's supposed to be asleep. But instead, he's in the code-breaking room with permission from the night duty officer, a young ensign who doesn't care what the kid does as long as he doesn't bother anyone. Andrew spreads out 60 caught messages across an empty desk. They're all from the same Japanese sending station, all sent during March. Normal procedure says you look for repeated code groups. The same 5-digit number appearing in multiple messages might be a common word, like the or attack. But extra number encryption should make that impossible. The extra numbers should randomize everything. Except Andrew's been noticing that certain messages sent from Tokyo to Berlin have letter markers information at the beginning of the message that only use the first 13 letters of the alphabet, and messages from Berlin to Tokyo only use the last 13 letters. It's barely noticeable. Nobody's mentioned it in any of the analysis reports he's filed. He grabs a pencil. What if this seems crazy. What if the unencrypted markers follow the same pattern? What if Tokyo to Berlin headers use only A through M? In plain text, and Berlin to Tokyo uses N through Z. If that's true, and if you know the plain text structure of the markers, you could subtract the plain text from the encrypted marker to recover part of the extra number table. And if you have part of the extra number table, you can start peeling back the encryption on the actual message content. Andrew works through the math. His hands shake slightly. It's such a stupid, simple idea. Surely the real code breakers have thought of this. But he checks the analysis logs. Nothing. Nobody's following this thread. By 5 a.m., he's tested his idea on 5 messages. It works. He can recover marker extra numbers with 73% accuracy. His rough method, just pencil and paper, has given him a foothold into the supposedly unbreakable extra number system. He needs to tell someone. But who? He's a kid. A message sorter. The actual code breakers barely notice he exists. Marshall Hall Jr., one of the lead math experts, once told him, "Son, you're here to file papers, not to play code breaker." Andrew approaches Lieutenant Commander Howard Engstrom during the morning shift change. "Sir, I think I found something in the JN25 messages. The marker headers might be." "Not now, Gleason. We're busy." "But sir, if we know the plain text structure of the Gleason, I'm going to say this once. You've been here 10 weeks. Agnes Driscoll has been breaking codes since before you were born. Joe Rochefort fought in the First World War. We have Yale math experts and naval academy code breakers working 16-hour days on this. Do you seriously think you've spotted something they've all missed?" Maybe I have. The math I can show, that's enough. Get back to message sorting. That's your job. Do your job." Andrew returns to his desk, notebook in hand. The breakthrough sits there, 73% proven, and nobody wants to hear it. In his notes, he writes, "They think I'm too young to matter. Maybe I am. But the math doesn't care how old I am." For 3 weeks, Andrew Gleason keeps his discovery to himself. He makes it better, tests it on more messages, improves his accuracy to 81%. He develops math tests to check his recovered extra numbers. The method works. He knows it works. But nobody will listen to a 17-year-old message sorter. Then on May 11, 1942, everything changes. Admiral Nimitz arrives at Building 1 for an emergency briefing. Japanese radio messages have exploded. Something big is coming. Rochefort's team knows it's a major attack, but they can't pinpoint where. The partly broken caught messages mention a location marked AF. Is it Alaska? Australia? They're flying blind. In the briefing room, tension crackles like static electricity. Rochefort presents what little they know. We're reading maybe 5% of current JN-25 messages. Sir, we can confirm major carrier movements, but locations and timing remain unclear. The extra number tables are changed too often. We can't crack them fast enough. Admiral Nimitz stares at the map. Commander, I need to know where they're hitting. If I send the fleet to the wrong location, we lose the Pacific. Do you understand? Everything depends on you people breaking that code. Sir, we're doing everything. Andrew Gleason stands up. He doesn't mean to. His body just moves. Every rule of military behavior says he should sit down and shut up. He's the lowest ranked person in the room. But the words come out. Sir, I think I know how to break the extra numbers. The room erupts. Officers shout over each other. Who the hell is this kid? How did a seaman apprentice get into a classified briefing? Rochefort looks like he's aged 10 years in 10 seconds. Gleason, sit down, Engstrom hisses. But I've been testing a method. Gleason, sit down. Nimitz holds up a hand. The room falls silent. Let him speak. Andrew's mouth goes dry. He's never spoken to an admiral before. He can feel every eye drilling into him. His voice cracks as he starts. Sir, the marker headers in Tokyo Berlin messages use split alphabets. A through M, one direction, N through Z the other. If we assume plain text follows the same pattern, we can recover extra number tables by subtraction. I've tested it on 47 messages with 81% accuracy. Lieutenant Commander Thomas Dyer, one of Rochefort's senior codebreakers, leans forward. That's wait. Say that again about the alphabet split. Andrew repeats it, faster now, more confident. He shows his notebook. The math spills out. Pattern recognition, frequency analysis, math checking. It's rough compared to the fancy theories the Yale math experts use, but it's real. It's testable. It works. Dyer grabs the notebook, scans it, and his eyes widen. Joe, look at this. The kid might be onto something. Marshall Hall Jr. crowds in. So does Agnes Driscoll. They pass the notebook around, checking calculations, testing assumptions. The room divides instantly. Half the officers think this is crazy, a waste of time from an unqualified child. The other half sees what Andrew sees, a crack in the fortress wall. This is insane, Captain Joseph Wenger says. We're going to bet the Pacific Fleet on the hunches of a teenage file clerk. It's not a hunch, Dyer argues. The math is solid. We can test it right now. On what timeline? Nimitz needs answers in weeks, not months. So we work faster. Rochefort looks at Andrew. Really looks at him for the first time. Gleason, how old are you? Really? The room goes quiet. Andrew feels his fake birth certificate burning a hole in his file somewhere. 19, sir. Unhung. And I'm the Queen of England. Rochefort turns to Nimitz. Sir, I don't care if he's 12. If this method works, it might give us the breakthrough we need. Nimitz studies Andrew for a long moment, then nods. Test it. You have 72 hours. If it works, I want every available codebreaker using Gleason's method immediately. If it doesn't work, he doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. If you're fascinated by the untold stories of World War II heroes who changed history, hit that subscribe button. We upload new documentaries every week, exploring the people and moments that shaped our world. Don't miss the next one. 72 hours. Andrew Gleason doesn't sleep. None of them do. The code-breaking team divides into two groups. One continuing regular attacks on JN25, the other testing Andrew's marker subtraction method. The kid who was sorting messages 3 weeks ago now sits at a table with Agnes Driscoll, Marshall Hall Jr., and Tom Dyer, the best codebreakers in the American military. Driscoll treats him roughly at first. She's broken Japanese, German, and Italian codes. She doesn't put up with fools. And she especially doesn't put up with teenage boys who think they've discovered something everyone else missed. But as they work through caught message after caught message, her attitude shifts. The method works. More than that, it's faster than anything they've tried. Within 16 hours, they've recovered enough extra numbers to begin stripping encryption from current messages. By hour 36, they're reading pieces of battle orders. By hour 60, they've decoded enough to confirm Rochefort's suspicion. AF is Midway Island. The Japanese are planning a massive carrier strike in early June. 4 to 6 carriers, dozens of support ships, an invasion force to capture the island. Nimitz gets the intelligence brief on May 14, 1942, the location, the timing, the force composition, everything he needs to plan an ambush. He sends 3 carriers, Hornet and Yorktown, barely repaired from earlier battles, to position themselves northeast of Midway. The Japanese don't know they're walking into a trap, but the intelligence keeps coming, and it's Andrew's method that's unlocking it. By May 27th, OP-20G is reading 40% of current JN25 messages on unprecedented breakthrough. They identify the Japanese carrier divisions Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, the flagship commanders, the attack timeline. They even get confirmation on the morning of June 4th, when decoded caught messages reveal Japanese pilots being briefed for dawn strikes on Midway's airfield. On June 4th, 1942, at 10:26 a.m., dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown catch 3 Japanese carriers with their decks full of armed and fueled aircraft. In 5 minutes, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu are burning wrecks. Hiryu launches a counter-strike that cripples Yorktown, but American bombers find her in the afternoon. By sunset, 4 Japanese fleet carriers are sinking. Japan loses 248 aircraft, 3,057 men, and its best carrier pilots. The Battle of Midway isn't just a victory, it's the turning point of the Pacific War. Before Midway, Japan held the power, choosing when and where to strike. After Midway, they're on defense. Their carrier strength is shattered, their battle plans exposed. And it happened because a 17-year-old with a fake birth certificate noticed that marker headers used split alphabets. After Midway, OP-20G becomes an intelligence factory. Andrew's marker subtraction method grows into a complete system for attacking extra number tables. The team develops mechanical helpers, early IBM tabulators, adapted for code breaking. By August 1942, they're reading 60% of JN25 messages. By October, 75%. The intelligence saves thousands of lives. On August 24, 1942, decoded JN25 messages revealed Japanese plans to land reinforcements at Guadalcanal. American naval forces stop them at the Battle of the Eastern Solomons. The Japanese lose a light carrier and dozens of transport ships. On October 26th, advance warning from JN25, decoded messages allows American carriers to ambush a Japanese task force at Santa Cruz. The kill numbers flip. In 1941, Japan sank 3 American ships for every one they lost. By late 1942, America is sinking to Japanese ships for every one lost. Submarine warfare transforms completely. Us submarines equipped with decoded Japanese convoy routes begin a campaign of organized destruction. In 1941, American submarines sank 180,000 tons of Japanese merchant shipping. In 1943, armed with JN-25 intelligence, they sink 1.5 million tons. Japan's economy chokes. Oil from the Dutch East Indies can't reach Japanese refineries. Troops in New Guinea and the Philippines run short of food and ammunition, all because American submarines know exactly where the convoys will be. Even the Japanese notice. A captured diary from a Japanese naval officer recovered in late 1943 reads, "The Americans seem to know our movements before we do. How is this possible? Our codes are unbreakable. Our communication officers assure us the enemy cannot read our messages. Yet their submarines are always waiting. Their carriers always in the right position. It is as if they can read our minds. They could. They were reading the messages. Every battle order, every fleet movement, every convoy route, all decoded, translated, and delivered to American commanders within hours." In November 1943, Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz visited OP to OG. The codebreakers had just provided intelligence that allowed U.S. forces to ambush and kill Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the planner of Pearl Harbor. Nimitz walked through the basement facilities, shook hands with the codebreakers, and stopped at Andrew Gleason's desk. Gleason, now officially 19 and actually 18, stood at attention. "At ease, son," Nimitz said. "I've read the reports about Midway, about your work on JN-25. Do you understand what you accomplished? We broke their code, sir. You did more than that. You saved the Pacific Fleet. You probably saved thousands of American lives. How old are you? Really?" Andrew hesitated. The truth seemed crazy now. 18, sir." Nimitz smiled slightly. "When this war ends, you're going to college. That's an order. Men like you shouldn't be filing messages. You should be teaching code breaking to the next generation." He paused. "But for now, keep breaking their codes. We're counting on you." The war in the Pacific still had 2 brutal years to run, but from June 1942 onward, America fought with its eyes open, and every victory, every saved life, every successful ambush, traced back in part to a teenager who lied about his age and accidentally cracked an unbreakable code. This is the kind of history they don't teach in school. Real people making impossible decisions under incredible pressure. If you're enjoying this, hit the like button and share it with someone who loves military history. And check out our video on the Battle of Midway to see how this intelligence changed everything. When World War II ended in August 1945, Andrew Gleason faced a choice. The Navy wanted him to stay. The newly formed National Security Agency needed experienced codebreakers. They offered him rank, salary, a career in the shadows. But Admiral Nimitz's order echoed in his mind, "You're going to college." He enrolled at Yale in the fall of 1946 as a freshman. Though he'd already done work that most PhD math experts would envy, he never talked about his war service. The code breaking remained classified. His classmates had no idea that the quiet guy in their calculus class had helped win the Battle of Midway. But the war changed him. That basement in Pearl Harbor had shown him what mathematics could do when applied to real problems, not abstract theory for its own sake, but concrete puzzles with life or death stakes. He finished his Yale degree in 1949 and joined Harvard's mathematics department, where he would spend the next 4 decades solving problems everyone else thought were impossible. In 1952, he solved Hilbert's fifth problem, one of math's most famous unsolved challenges. In 1957, he published Gleason's theorem, which revolutionized quantum mechanics. His work on Ramsey theory, coding theory, and math education influenced generations of students. He won the Newcomb-Cleveland Prize, served as president of the American Mathematical Society, and held the Hollis Chair of Mathematics at Harvard. but the code-breaking stayed classified until 1996, when the NSA began declassifying World War II code-breaking records. Researchers finally learned the full story of JN250P20G and the marker subtraction method that cracked the Japanese naval code. Andrew Gleason's name appeared in the historical reports, though by then he was in his 70s, more interested in teaching than in rehashing old glories. In a rare 1998 interview about his war work, Gleason said, "I was young and stupid and lucky. The real heroes were the people like Rochefort and Driscoll who'd been fighting that code for years. I just noticed something they'd been too busy to see. If anything, it proves that sometimes you need fresh eyes on a problem." The experts had been staring at JN25 so long they couldn't see past their assumptions. The numbers tell the story better than words. Before Andrew Gleason's marker breakthrough in May 1942, OP20G could read 5% of current JN25 messages. After using his method, that jumped to 40% within weeks and 75% by year's end. Historians estimate the JN25 intelligence directly helped sink over 800 Japanese ships, saved at least 50,000 American lives, and shortened the Pacific War by potentially 18 months. Andrew Gleason died on October 17, 2008, at age 86. His obituaries focused on his math achievements, Hilbert's fifth problem, his quantum mechanics work, his education reforms. Most didn't mention the war. Most didn't know. But in the Cryptologic Museum at NSA headquarters, there's a small display about JN25. It mentions Agnes Driscoll, Joe Rochefort, Marshall Hall Jr., and other legends of American code breaking. And in one corner, there's a photograph of a baby-faced kid in an ill-fitting Navy uniform standing in front of a desk covered in 5-digit number groups. The caption reads, "Seaman Andrew M. Gleason, OP20G, 1942. His marker subtraction method helped break JN25 and win the Battle of Midway." It doesn't mention that he was 17. It doesn't mention the fake birth certificate, but the historians know, and now so do you. The lesson isn't about lying to join the military, though thousands of young men did exactly that. In World War II, the lesson is about what's possible when someone refuses to accept that a problem can't be solved, when fresh eyes look at old assumptions, when a kid who's not supposed to be in the room speaks up anyway. The code wasn't really unbreakable. It just needed someone who didn't know it was supposed to be impossible. And sometimes that's all it takes to change the world.